Hey students, this is lesson 9.6. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. And we're going to learn how to find the number of solutions of quadratic equations using a thing called discriminant. All right, go ahead and do the review here, and I'll check back again. All right, we're going to go ahead and use the quadratic formula. Here's the quadratic formula, and in class I might show you how this is derived. It's basically derived by completing the square on this equation. This is a general form of a quadratic equation. When it's in that form, x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So all we need to do is identify what a, b, and c are, and take notice that it's in the formula, everything is plus. So if there's a subtraction like this is, then b is a negative number. So let's just go ahead and write down what a, b, and c are. A is 1, because it's 1x squared. B is equal to -3, and c is equal to -10. And we're just going to substitute it into the formula and use our calculator to find the answer. So we need the opposite of b. The opposite of -3 is 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared. Use parentheses here, otherwise you may get the wrong answer. Minus 4 times a times c. C is -10. And right here, be careful. And 2 times 1. And so we're going to just simplify this a little bit. Simplify the radical here. 3 squared is 9, and we're going to subtract -40 here, so that's really adding 40, so 9 plus 40, and we're going to divide that by 2. 9 plus 40 is 49, so we get 3 plus or minus the square root of 49 divided by 2, and square root of 49 is 7, so we get 3 plus or minus 7 divided by 2. Now I'm going to write both answers. So x is equal to 3 plus 7 divided by 2, which is 5. And x is equal to 3 minus 7 divided by 2, which is -4 divided by 2 is -2. Now you can just check those answers, make sure they work. If you put in 5 here, 5 squared minus 3 times 5 minus 10, that should equal 0. And 25 minus 15 is 10 minus 10 is 0. That one works. And then if you put -2 in there, it should also work. So -2 squared minus 3 times -2 minus 10 should equal 0. That's 4 plus 6 minus 10, which is 0. That one works also. All right, you've tried that? All right, we're going to use quadratic formula here to help us approximate a solution. It says Jacob tosses a ball across the playground. The arc of the ball can be modeled by this equation, quadratic equation where x is horizontal distance in meters from Jacob. How far from Jacob does the ball land? Okay, when the ball lands, now remember this represents the height, or x is the horizontal distance in meters from Jacob, and y is the height. When the ball lands, the height will be 0. So y is 0. So we can solve this equation for a height of 0. So equals 0. All right, and now we're going to use the quadratic equation. A is equal to -0.05. B is equal to 0.75. And c is equal to 4. And then let's substitute it into the equation. So we're going to do x is equal to the opposite of b, so -0.75 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 0.75 squared minus 4 times a, which is -0.05. 0.05 times c, which is 4. And we're going to divide that by 2 times a. All right, I'm going to get my calculator. Oh, calculate that. All right, so I'm going to do negative 0.75 plus the square root of 1.3625 divided by 0.1. And when I do that, I get about negative 4.2. And that one I'm just going to eliminate because I know my answer can't be negative. My other answer I get is about 19.2. So I'm going to go with that answer. So that is about 19.2 meters. Yep, meters from where he's standing. All right, you try that. All right, there are many methods you can use for solving a quadratic equation. You can always use the quadratic formula, but sometimes another method is easier. And here's just a handy little idea of when you should use which method. So graphing, if you have a graphing calculator handy, go ahead and use it to approximate the answers. Square roots use if the equation has no x term. So I'll give you an example, something like this. If you have x squared plus 50 equals 0, you should definitely use square roots to find that. Factoring, if you can factor it easily, generally speaking, if the coefficient of the quadratic term is 1, that's something like this, x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. You should definitely factor to find that answer. If you can't factor it easily, but the coefficient of the x squared is 1, then you should use completing the square, and otherwise use the quadratic formula. Okay, so let's just decide, looking at these, which method's best. Since the coefficient of the x term, so in this first one, since the coefficient of the x term is 0, we're going to use square roots to solve that one. The second one, since we have coefficient of 3 on that, we're just going to use the quadratic formula for that one, or the graphing calculator. And we graph it to do that. This one factors really easily, x plus 2 times x plus 5. So we're going to factor that one to solve it. The next one, is there 2 factors of 15, negative 15, that add up to 4? I don't think there is. So we can use completing the square because the coefficient of the leading term is 1. So we're going to complete the square on that one. And on the last one, we can use square roots for that because of the same reason as the first one. All right, try that. All right, so another thing about the quadratic equation is this part right here. It's called the discriminant. And it's right here. That part is the discriminant. And it's called the discriminant because you can discriminate the number of solutions by just finding that value. Okay? If b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, there are 2 solutions. If b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, there is no solution. And if it equals 0, there's 1 solution. So we're just going to find the number of solutions here by doing b squared minus 4AC. All right, so my B is 7, so I'm going to do 7 squared minus 4. A is 2, and C is negative 15. And that's 49 plus 120, and that's definitely a positive number, right? So it's greater than 0, so there are 2 solutions. You try that. All right, here's the lesson check. Go ahead and do that, and we'll talk about this next time we meet in class.